So it's not like you can say it's just this or just that. All these Saturn principles come in, affect all the Mercury principles. If there's a conjunction, square, opposition, there's a tendency to be too serious, or to be responsible, or to be depressed, or to be inhibited. And you have to look to see if they're being ambitious in the face with it and working towards it, or just inert and saying, why bother? They may not want to read. Why read when you just can, when you just can watch a video? So if the boss is in the office and something went wrong and there's 10 people there and the boss says, who did that? The last person to speak is the Mercury Saturn. Wait. And if they're looked at directly, then they'll try and be serious and act responsibly. They're not inclined, Mercury Saturn is not inclined to lie quite so much. They're inclined to be too structured, too ordered. That can be a good thing. That caution, that reserve, look at the people you know who've got Mercury Saturn conjunct square opposition. They're planners, but they have this defensiveness. They're not jokers. When they're talking, they're serious. They expect to be listened to. When they hear be talking, and it's just, when it's positive, it's a very alert to responsibilities. When it's negative, it's feeling depressed by it. Why bother? I don't want to go to school. I'll just hold the same job. But it's harder when you get close to it, because it's when you're with someone, you may not want to talk that much. So I'm pointing out the stress factors. If you got them, you still have to work with the healing of it. You use the Mercury and the sign it's in, and you use the Saturn is, and they'll naturally let into each other and have to develop their relationship about how to think about these responsibilities, because if I leave it, it's going to pile up on me. Okay. But someone could be married and think the other person's always doing the thinking for them. They're thinking, but nobody's listening. And then there's where the inhibition of Saturn, it also becomes the ambition of Saturn. I've got to overcome this. I can't put up with this. I have to start planning. How do I get past this? Particular type of stress. Everyone's got their mind. Not everyone. Everyone has their Saturn relating to the mind. Not everyone has it as a special problem, as a cross to bear. So even though when you're working with a chart, you're working with planets and signs, planets and houses, and you're directing the energy, that's the healing way. This stress will happen automatically out of this. And when you meet someone, you can run into this stress and you say, huh. So when you're talking to a person, you're working signs and houses. You can't say, oh, you're just depressed all the time. You're trying to say, you're going to try and think, how do you seriously take that? What are you going to learn? You're going to have to make an effort to learn something. You're going to have to try and make sense out of their inhibition to make them see how they could actually achieve things. So you work with the different names, associations of each planet, energies of each planet, and then you bring them together, try and sense what happens, and you're seeing the tension out of it. But you don't want to have just a word for an aspect. It's the energy between two planets. It's not either planet, it's what's happening between them. So you may, whenever you need something, the boss isn't going to be there. The Saturn or the father, if they're going to be there, they're going to be putting conditions on it or restricting your time. So you may pull away from it, or you might work with it. But yeah, it's not the inspiring, excitable mind. If it were a writer, they tend to write formal, practical reports rather than imaginative things. That formalness could work really well in composing music, which is generally very structured. Okay, let's move this over to Venus. And I think being aware of these outer to inner ones really helps you see the character of someone, and Saturn is not an enemy. It's tend to be, oh, it's miserable. It's only saying this is the order. That are you living up to it or not? So all of life is about living up to order. It's about structure, about bones, about health, about how you can accomplish things, how you can hold it together. at 1, at 2, at 3, at 30, at 50, at 70, at 100. What have you done with the time? So, what are you doing with it? You still have work to do. People that have work to do in your 60s and 70s and 80s, they're usually quite happy and busy and not dependent on everyone else taking care of them. But if your back gets weak and you can't do things, well, then you need other people. And if you haven't worked to take care of yourself, it's going to catch up on you. Okay, so there's a worry element with the Saturn moon, or even with the Saturn moon. With the Saturn moon, it's a type of worry. With Saturn Mercury, it's a mental worry. I'm thinking about the serious things, or not this. It's not frivolous. There's many places where not frivolous is an asset. But when you get close to someone, they're going to have that. You're going to run across this. When you get to Venus, which is your sense of self-worth, and how beautiful you think you are, how lovely you think you are, how rich you think, how great, how beautiful your sense of self-worth. That's Venus. When Saturn is going to conjunct or oppose it, or square it, it's like the old man going out with the young woman or marrying the young woman. How could that happen? The young woman's going to have to put up with stuff she doesn't want. The guy's going to be wanting the older person, whether it's man or woman, would be catering and being responsible to the person and trying to almost like take care of them, be responsible for them. But normally Saturn to Venus is going to restrict. It's going to defend. It's going to be cautious. It's going to reserve. It's going to be inhibited. So Saturn to Venus, your sense of love and beauty, what's satisfaction? If you have Saturn to Venus, satisfaction is a serious thing. You're not going to, you could be really serious and make sure whoever you're with, you're taking care of them. But it starts to become a little difficult to just be open and take satisfaction and think it's good. That's it. That's all I got. What? So the Saturn to Venus starts thinking, I don't have enough money, or I'm not handsome or beautiful enough, or nobody likes me. I can't just smile and attract the things I want. It's not coming through that. I'm not liked. And that ties into I'm not beautiful enough, or I don't have enough money. Or so there's a tendency to restrict the desires. And now, generally, Saturn with the moon with Venus would not be lustful, because it would have controls on lust, controls on how much I can be satisfied, how much I can take. Well, there's limits on things. So in some ways, it's the not sweet tooth. It's the discipline. I don't have to eat all. I can do without this. I can do without this. I'm not this. But at the same time, like if someone's handsome or beautiful, when they're young, everybody gives them everything, and everyone wants to know them. When they start to get older and uglier, they get humbled. Well, anybody who's not beautiful and getting everything, they have to deal with that sooner. When they're younger, they tend to say, well, I have to work to get what I want. So these people are going to be cautious about money, defensive about money, defensive about appreciation, and even defensive about receiving love. I'm not good enough. Why would you like me? Or here we are. Maybe I made a choice. I married you because it was practical, but it really wasn't what I wanted. I married you because you had money, but I'm not necessarily physically attracted to you. Boy, it's hard to fake that. What that would happen would be someone could be relating to them and giving them everything, and they're just taking because they're not showing that that doesn't mean that much. Like they're inhibited about receiving things. Either they can be feeling I never have anything, I'm poor, I'm rich, I'm not beautiful, I'm not liked, so why bother? Or they can be really defensive, working hard to make their own money. They take a practical job. Like it tends to diminish the artistic side of things because Saturn's being practical. But in many ways, some artistic things are very practical. If someone was inclined to was an artist and they had the Venus Saturn, they would have a structured thing. You would not see overwhelmingly bright colors overflowing on a canvas. You would see more design, more structure, more detail, more caution, more grays, more pastels, rather than bright, shocking colors. And that's how they see themselves, as the pastel, rather than the bright, shining colors. So if someone sees them as a bright, shining color and gets close, the person seeing that, they see the good in them and they don't see it themselves. But there's a tendency to be overly cautious around money, not the first person to spend money, not the first person to show emotions. It's restrained and cautious. Well, in a world where everybody's just drinking and showing and flaunting everything, they're going to be on the conservative side of it or the inhibited side of it. So when you're working with someone's chart and you're working with a planet and you're seeing the Venus, you're seeing the categories and the signs and the houses, and you're watching where it's go, then you're going to see if Saturn's there, there's going to be something making it cautious at every one of these levels. But you're still trying to make each of those levels to find appreciation and beauty and love and all of those to attract and repulse things. But so this attraction and repulsion of Venus, I attracted you. I married you. I got this job. There's an overwhelming fact. There's an overwhelming presence of discontent. Now, the person in their ego and their job, they may not show their discontent. But as soon as you want something from them, or you expect them to be beautiful, or to try and sing or do things, there's a tendency to not want to show that. Some therapy would be to take some singing or play an instrument or learn to play a keyboard. When you can play a few songs you might like, it's going to fix, it's going to heal some of the inhibited emotional nerves. If you have the inhibited emotions of Saturn coming in, you've always had it. So you're going to work cautiously, practically. You could be the musician, but you're going to have to do the training. You're going to take your time. You're going to take the practice. So you would probably be more inclined for a piano or a keyboard rather than singing. But you'd have to work to build up the disciplines to get there. And often there's not enough money to do this, or I'm locked into this, or I have to do this. So it can restrict the magnetism, it can restrict what you attract, it can restrict what you project. You'll be cautious emotionally. So you might marry a practical person. You could marry someone that has no money and say, oh, geez, this is depressing. You marry someone that has money, but isn't what you wanted, and you got the same, oh, geez. So this is underappreciated. So if someone has it, and you're trying to relate to them, you're going to have to you're not going to get them out of the shell, but you might help them to refine it and come out of it and like themselves a bit more. And if you can do that, you'll open them up. And if you have it, if you're feeling really inhibited and restricted, I have to do something to change this. But often you get locked in a situation, this is the way it is. How can I change this? I'll never get a job on that. And there's other things that come in. You're trying to get your Venus and Saturn's. You can't do it without looking at Saturn and taking care of it. It's hard to be with someone who can't be satisfied, or doesn't like to be satisfied, or is, again, that Annie Hall movie where the two of them are talking to the shrink and they have to split the screen, and on the one, the woman saying, on the one hand, the guy saying, we hardly ever make love, it's terrible, we got a horrible relationship, we can like each other, but we can't, we hardly ever make love, we only make love 3 times a week. And then the other side of the screen, the woman saying, he's sex obsessed, he's always making love, we never have time to do anything else, it's totally oppressive. He wants to make love 3 times a week. And it's just different perspectives. So this is going to manifest outwardly and inwardly. And really the work is to do something that you like, to take the time to work on. You don't have to show it. You could be a good singer, you could be a good musician, you could be an artist, but you wouldn't show your thing. You just have some little hobby you're doing yourself. You have special music that you like, and you have your own playlist you live in. But you wouldn't necessarily show your playlist to everyone else, because it might be a little more cautious.